In the south of the Sultanate of Oman, a certain tree, the Boswellia sacra, produces a resin that has entranced pharaohs, kings and emperors for thousands of years. In antiquity, this legendary aromatic resin was worth its weight in gold. The incense route is almost synonymous with desert crossings and with the great sea voyages that have fascinated people since the first boat left for Egypt almost 3,000 years before Jesus Christ. Frankincense was used to embalm the mummies of the pharaohs and to honor the gods of temples. In the Bible, the three kings came from the east to offer the infant Jesus gold, myrrh, and frankincense. Caravans of up to 2,000 camels and 500 men transported their precious cargo to the Mediterranean and the empires of Greece and Rome. The land routes crossing the Arabian Peninsula stayed close to the western coast to avoid the inhospitable Rub al-Khali desert that occupies a quarter of the Arabian Peninsula. I begin my journey along the incense route in Muscat. I then cross the Omani deserts towards the south, to Dhofar, where the precious resin is harvested. All along the route, a multitude of crenellated forts once protected the caravans. The route is bathed in this perfume of the gods. I set off through a captivating thick smoke whose swirling scents, since antiquity, have united heaven and earth, mortal and immortal. Muscat, Oman's capital since the 18th century, enjoys a spectacular location. The city sits in a recess of the foothills of the Al-Hajar Mountains that cross the north of the country, where it faces the sapphire blue water of the Gulf of Oman. Over the last 30 years, Muscat has undergone unprecedented development. Muscat means anchorage. This capital has gone from being a small maritime town to a large city with ultra-modern infrastructures. Muscat has a population of 1.5 million, 45% of whom are expatriates. The city covers a large area. From west to east, it covers 100 kilometers with rows of white houses on both sides of the expressway that crosses it. There are no skyscrapers in Muscat. Urban planning rules specify that no construction can hide the mountains. There are many gardens and green spaces in Muscat. The city is often accredited with being one of the cleanest cities in the world. The Sultan Qaboos Grand Mosque is in the middle of the city. It was inaugurated in 2001 after 6 years of construction. Sultan Qaboos wanted it to be the biggest mosque in the Sultanate. Today, after 7 years construction, it can hold 40,000 worshippers. Its central dome is 50 meters high and is surrounded by 5 minarets. These represent the 5 pillars of Islam. The highest of these is 91.5 meters tall. A chandelier weighing 8.5 tons and illuminated by 1,122 lamps hangs in the middle of the Great Prayer Room, which can hold up to 20,000 believers. This room also contains the second largest carpet in the world. Weighing 21 tons, it took 600 weavers 4 years to work its 1.7 billion knots. The Grand Mosque is, like the country itself, a mixture of traditions and modernity. Islam is obviously the country's dominant religion, even though other religions are present in Oman. When the schism between the Shiites and the Sunnites occurred in the 7th century, a third branch of Islam was born. It is called Ibadism. Ibadis are often described as the democrats of Islam. For the earlier Ibadis, the caliph was to be elected without distinction of rank. He was to be chosen for his virtue, his knowledge, and his piety, rather than for his affiliation to Muhammad's tribe, as for Sunnites, or to his family, as for Shiites. The Sultanate of Oman is the sanctuary for this erudite and refined school of Islam. It is practiced by fewer than 1% of Muslims in the world. I'm looking forward to visiting the Souk to see the white gold at last. The Souk is located in Mutrah, just behind the port. This harbour is guarded by 2 forts. These 16th century Portuguese constructions attest to the strategic role of this trading port. A huge incense burner-shaped tower, one of the emblems of Muscat, dominates the Bay of Mutrah and has a splendid view of the city as well as of the Al-Hajar mountains. In the port, you will see both state-of-the-art yachts and traditional dhows. These dhows once roamed the oceans, their holds loaded with incense being transported around the region and far beyond, often as far as South Asia. The port of Souk, located to the east of Muscat, is the last place in Oman to make traditional dhows. Most of the boats made in the Souk shipyards are dhows. These traditional boats are still built using ancestral skills and know-how.
This shipyard is over 70 years old. It belonged to my father and his family. When my father got old, we took over and carried on his work. This shipyard is just about the only one left in the entire Persian Gulf. There used to be about a dozen shipyards in this region. Shipbuilding has been going on here for centuries. And the whole industry was based on the incense trade. In the old days, traders travelled along the Gulf coast and as far as India, Africa and China. They carried incense from Salalah to Egypt and China. They were at sea 8 to 9 months at a time. After that, they returned here, overhauled their boats, and then left for Iraq, Kuwait and Bahrain. Now, this shipyard is the only one left that builds wooden boats. In the old days, boats didn't use sails, they weren't mechanized. They used oars. They would row the entire trip, from the Dhofar region to India and even to China. In a few months, we'll have larger boats with different shapes. We're going to construct an ancient ancestral vessel. It will sail from the town of Souk to China and to Africa. It will follow the same routes as those of our ancestors, God willing.
As I continue visiting the town, I am struck by a smell that I seem to recognize. I follow my nose and arrive at the Souk. Located in a covered but airy alleyway, this souk, locally known as the Dark Market, is made up of a medley of small shops offering floral waters, scented wood powders, silver jewellery, traditional coffee services, khanjars, traditional daggers with curved blades, as well as fabrics, and of course, incense. I'm at Zlad's shop. His family have been selling incense for generations.
Incense is sold by weight. The customer buys what he wants. This quantity, for example, weighs a kilo. I started working in the souk when I was 9. We rented this shop a long time ago, about 15 years ago. Our first shop was in Salalah. We sold incense there. Then we came here. The incense business does well during the holidays, in January, February and March. In July and August, we sell less. People go to Salalah. The best grades come from Salalah. There's a greater variety of incense in Salalah. There's less here. In Salalah, incense is plentiful and of very good quality, but it's also a little more expensive. Because of the good quality, like this one here, the grains are larger. There are different types of incense. Some are large-grained, others small-grained. Some are malleable, some less so. If you want to buy the best, you have to go to Salalah.
Following the expert's advice, I head south towards the Dhofar region in search of the best quality incense. So now it's time to leave Muscat and to take the winding mountain road that leads south. My next stop is the city of Bala. The route is bordered by countless forts. Watching over the people, these strongholds demonstrate the once timeless need to protect this trade route. I arrive in Bala. Bala is famous for its fort and for its souks, but above all for its pottery. At Said's, I see all shapes and sizes of pots drying in the sun. Part of an ancient tradition, Said belongs to one of the oldest potting families in the town. He wants to show me the art of making magmas, or incense burners. This craft has been slowly disappearing over time, but Said is very attached to its preservation. He wants to pass on his know-how, so he is training young apprentices who will take over from him later.
Pottery making is one of the oldest crafts in Oman.
من أكثر قبل الميلاد ب3000 بعض القطع ما قبل الميلاد.
We found the remains of old ovens that have been buried here for hundreds and hundreds of years.
الأفران القديمة بمئات السنين تحت الأرض مطمورة.
These discoveries show that the pottery trade has existed since antiquity in Oman, and particularly in Bala. It used to exist all over Oman. Pottery is undergoing a rebirth amongst young people, but old people no longer work in the trade. I'm the oldest person I know who still works as a potter. All the others are young apprentices that I'm training. The clay is from here, from the region of Bala. It's the material we use for our trade. In our homes, we use all of these objects. We use incense in our houses to make them smell good. Incense from Oman is considered amongst the very best. We can use up to a kilo a month. Sometimes even 2 kilos or 1.5 kilos is normal. It's not too much.
Further along my route, I passed Jabrin Castle. As soon as I enter the courtyard, I'm struck by the purity of its lines. The ochre walls contrast sharply with the blue sky. It makes the place so special. Jabrin Castle was built in 1670 during the most prosperous time of the Yarubid dynasty. The Yarubids drove the Portuguese out of Oman and attacked their possessions in Africa. They went from being dominated to being colonizers. The establishment of spice and slave trading posts from Zanzibar to Mogadishu and from Bahrain to present-day Pakistan contributed largely to the wealth of the sultans of Oman. The castle was completely renovated in the 1980s. The interior of the castle is a perfect example of traditional Omani architecture. The painted ceilings and the wooden mashrabiyah are exemplary. Besides serving as a second home to Imam bil Arab bin Sultan when he travelled, Jabrin Castle had several other functions. It was a place for astrological studies, a Quranic school, a stronghold, and even a prison. It could hold up to 300 people within its compound. The roof terrace has several different levels accessible via stairs from each of the buildings. The enclosure is walled with crenellations and loopholes. Cannons are also housed in parts of its walls. The view through the windows or from the top of the fort offers a 360-degree panorama of the surrounding palm groves. In the distance, you can see the Al-Hajar Mountains. My next stop is Nizwa. It's the main town in this mountainous region. This former capital of the Sultanate is now famous for its dates, and huge date fairs are regularly held here. But I'm interested in a different speciality, halva. Halva is very popular with the Omanis. They often eat it with cardamom-flavoured coffee. The halva from Al-Safiz is known throughout the entire country. It regularly wins prizes. Sham is the son of Al-Safi's founder. He takes me to the workshop where the halva's made.
Halwa is a varied pastry. It differs according to the quality of its ingredients.
Traditionally, halva was mixed by hand for many hours to incorporate all the ingredients. Nowadays, electric beaters perform this tedious task.
After it's cooked, the halwa is poured into a large platter. It is then served on the dish of the client's choice.
With my stomach and eyes satisfied, I leave Nizwa and its surrounding area for the heights of Jebel Shams. The twisting mountain road leads to a huge plateau. From there, I make my way to the Wadi Naka. At 3,009 meters in altitude, Jebel Shams is not only the highest point in the Al-Hajar Mountains, but also in the entire country. It is often called the Grand Canyon of Oman. The mountains are full of wadis. These small canyons are shaped by the erosion of mountain rains. Beyond, for as far as the eye can see, lies the desert through which caravans once carried incense. Every dwelling place must be close to a falaj. Historically, this word refers to the channels dug in the ground which allow the irrigation of the crops in the oasis and the surrounding fields. Without a falaj, there would be no harvest possible in this desert climate. Thanks to the clever system of sluice gates, water is distributed to each plot in the oasis for a defined period of time. Each grower pays according to the amount of water he needs for his plot. Date palms are the main crop grown in the oasis. And as the locals say, the palm tree grows with its feet in the water and its head in the sun. Falaj are also used on a daily basis for bathing and washing clothing. They are also an inexhaustible source of fun for village children. But now I have to leave the mountains and head towards the Wahiba sands. I want to meet the Bedouins, the desert dwellers who have guided incense caravans for generations across one of the most inhospitable areas in the world. A Bedouin family welcomes me into their home. The term Bedouin comes from the Arabic word badwa. It means desert dweller. They're going to give me some advice on how best to approach the desert, and they let me observe their sedentary daily life.
I check on their health every morning. I have to be with them. I started in this job when I was 10. I used to accompany my father to work. He taught me the trade, and I learned from his experience. I didn't have the money to buy any camels of my own, so he gave me some. He said, "These camels are for you. Keep them, and I'll take care of all the expenses." I love this profession. I've become very attached to it. Every day we give them dates and hay to eat. Right now, the pastures are dry. A few years ago, we set up a shelter for them where they're fed hay and dates. We spend about 350 Omani rials a month. That's about 800 euros, but it can go up to 2,000 euros. We spend as much on race camels as we do on ourselves. Our parents and great-grandparents traveled on camels that were loaded. What my father taught me, I'll later teach my own children. Today, as long as Sultan Qaboos is alive, God save him, everything is easy for young people. He makes life easier for us.
I started my own business when I was 20. That's how I became independent. In winter, we transported dried dates by camel. We followed the route to Salalah and sold them there. If we found incense, we'd transport and sell that too. The incense trade is the most difficult one. Most people got it at the beginning of the harvesting season. They'd reserve and stock it. But the harvest areas are far away from us. We'd arrive late and the prices had already gone up. When summer came, we'd go home. We needed to give the camels a rest. During the trip, there were 3 of us and 9 or 10 camels. 3 of us held the capital. Each partner had one part. I had one part, the second man had one part, and the third fellow one part. When the summer was over, each partner took his share of the profit and went home. One of us was assigned to look after expenses. The designated person would put money in a sack called a habar. He managed the accounts and handled all negotiations with traders. That's how we'd buy the incense and other merchandise. If something went wrong and you lost your merchandise, for example, the traders were understanding. They'd help you. We once suffered a loss after a certain transaction, and they told us to pay what we could without going bankrupt. All financial and commercial exchanges are based on honesty and respect for one another.
After the Wahiba Sands, I crossed the Rub al-Khali desert. Its name literally means the empty quarter. It is the largest expanse of sand in the world. The dunes stretch infinitely across the borders and into Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Even the Bedouins never go there in the summer. Temperatures can soar to over 60 degrees Celsius. Making this long desert crossing, taking the original incense route towards Egypt on camelback, stirs real emotions. It's a unique sensation of following history in the footsteps of the caravans. Breeding racing camels is now the principal activity of the region. Sultan Qaboos has greatly helped in preserving this Bedouin tradition. He contributed to the construction of a large part of the infrastructures. He also financed some of the breeding farms.
We raise camels because we like this work, and because we like camels. Camels are essential to the Bedouins. They consume the meat and offer it to their guests. Camels are also a source of milk for children, as well as a means of transport. We also raise sheep and goats.
Abid al-Wahibi is an agronomist, but he also spends as much time as he can with his camels. He's from the Tumrait province, located in the center of the Dhofar.
For a long time, our grandparents and great-grandparents lived in the Rub al-Khali desert. Some of them lived in the Tumrait province and the surrounding area. The Tumrait province is a Bedouin region. It's the original home of the Dhofar Bedouins. Nowadays, camels are honored, but in the old days, our ancestors used them as a means of transport. It was high time to pay homage and to offer them comfort and the security that they deserve. Today, camel breeding has become a passionate avocation. Camels are loved, camels are cared for, camels are moved from place to place. We take them out in the afternoon. We train them to run set distances according to their age. For example, if a camel is very young, we train it to run a distance of 2 kilometers outwards and 2 kilometers back. The training varies from light to intensive. I have 1-year-old camels, 1.5-year-old camels, and 2-year-old camels. Each age category has a specific training program. We exercise and train the camels. Some win races and contests, others don't. Today, we use robot jockeys instead of human jockeys.
وكان الركض صعب من الهجن لأن الهجن يوم قبل بتركب عند الفيديو.
Camels, in fact, take off very quickly, and sometimes the jockeys fall off and get injured. It's also very tiring. That's why we created these robots. Before, the riders were exposed to the risk of falling off their mount, injuries, broken bones, and even death.
وفيات ولا إصابات نزيف ولا إصابات كسر وتكون في سماعة اللي هي
A loudspeaker is placed in the robot in order to speak to the camel.
تنهتها يعني صغرها.
There is also a device connected to a mechanical crop that encourages the camel to run.
انطلاقيتها يوم تنطلق تطلب منها كلام تكلمها وتحرك زيادة.
We train them to react to the crop. This makes them move. We had the best results both away, as in Abu Dhabi, as well as here in the Sultanate of Oman. We've also participated in a camel beauty contest. We won 15 cars as a prize. We love this work because we inherited it from our parents and grandparents. It allows us to better understand our cultural heritage.
His neighbour Ali, seeing my interest in Omani culture, offers to take me with him on his next incense harvesting trip. The trees that produce frankincense are found in the Tumrait province in the Dhofar region. The Dhofar uplands are covered by a desert savanna where 5,000 unique trees grow. Their aromatic resin is gathered and dried in order to produce an inimitable scent when burned. This endemic tree is a source of wealth for the entire region. It's hard work. In order to harvest the resin, you have to travel about 20 kilometers on foot every day over rocky mountain slopes. The loads were once carried by donkeys and camels. Today, four-wheel drives fulfill this task.
I started to do this work when I was very young. I went with my father and his companions on their excursions into the mountains to gather frankincense.
I
watched them work, and slowly I learned the technique. They explained how not to cut too deeply into the tree. If you do, the tree might be injured and die. They told me that if a tree is injured, it's because the bark was brutally cut, and not because of an animal or anything else. The knife we use for tapping the trees is called a mangaf. It's made from the wood of the tree itself. Its shape protects the hand, and when we incise the bark, we have to cut it in 3 very precise steps. For the first step, we remove a thin strip of bark. For the second step, we remove a slightly larger strip. And for the third step, we remove an even larger strip. Thus, the bark is incised in a very precise, delicate manner. On the other hand, if a pointed instrument is used, then the result is not so good. This way, we protect both the tree and our hands. During the harvest, we also have to pay attention to the direction of the wind. We have to incise the side against the wind and facing the sun. There are places in the tree that resemble small streams or small valleys. It's from here that the resin flows when we incise the bark. We have to tap the right spot, and in a precise manner without cutting into the sapwood of the tree, and thus avoid killing it. Many people work in the incense trade. Hundreds of people produce enormous amounts every season, usually not less than 10, 20 or 30 tons a year. The yield varies according to the climate conditions. The trees thrive in the sun and heat. The hotter it is, the better the trees nourish themselves, breathe and become stronger.
Ali is a Unjabali, a Bedouin tribe from the mountains that has always lived on the harvesting of resin. During antiquity, frankincense sold for its weight in gold. It was used in religious ceremonies as well as for making perfumes, medicines, and even in certain culinary specialities. For him, the frankincense tree, or Boswellia sacra, represents a source of income, an unbreakable link with tradition, and the feeling of belonging to a legendary history.
The quantity of frankincense harvested every year depends upon the climate, and not upon the tree itself. For example, it may give 10 kilograms one year, and the next year, 20 kilograms. We harvest the frankincense from several trees and obtain grains of various sizes. They have the same odour, but their quality differs. Black frankincense, for example, is not greatly appreciated. Its price is rather low. It's of lower quality. White frankincense is the highest quality. The best frankincense sells for 20 Omani rials. That's about 50 euros. Lesser grades of frankincense are about 15 euros. And the lesser, lower grades for about 10 euros. Sometimes a buyer asks for a very large quantity of frankincense. We sell it in bulk, and it's up to him to clean it and sort it. We don't make a large profit from such sales. We have to leave the buyer his part of the profit.
Ali sells a part of his harvest in Salalah. He offers to let me accompany him to the Souk to sell his day's harvest. In the Al-Husn Souk, the drifting scent of incense is everywhere. On the stalls, there are sacks full of superbly coloured frankincense. Red, green, white, yellow. The colour is indicative of their quality. Ali has come to sell his harvest to Haytham.
Hello.
Hello. Let me smell it. God bless you. Goodbye.
God bless you both. Goodbye.
This market is very old. Our ancestors worked here. It was their life. Our grandparents once sold dates and honey here. We buy frankincense from merchants and process it. We clean and purify it. We sort it. We separate the white from the black and the crust and the smaller grains. For us, it's not only a business, it's a heritage as well. I've worked in the incense trade since I was 18. All the saleswomen here are somewhat alchemists. They mix the resins with sandalwood, myrrh, rosehip oil, and musk. When placed on the glowing embers of an incense burner, these various blends slowly rise in a thick smoke and diffuse their fragrance throughout the souk. The Omanis continue to ward off evil spirits from their homes by burning incense. Selling incense is a woman's job. Some of the women are dressed in black. Completely covered, only their gaze escapes from behind their veils. Others in more modest shops are the descendants of African slaves. They bear witness to the time when Oman was a colonial power in Zanzibar and Mombasa. Black skin, a thin embossed gold ring in their noses, these women are not veiled and wear only a colourful headscarf. On Ali's advice, I stop at Nala's. This specialist deals with everything concerning frankincense. Frankincense is very much in demand. It cures many illnesses. It eases pain. The pain lessens as soon as you use it. It can be used to treat many illnesses. You can take frankincense like this, and, God willing, you can put it in water and drink it in the morning before eating. You churn it like this, and then you let it macerate, and you drink it early in the morning. It's good for sore throats and respiratory problems. It relieves pains and induces calmness. It can be drunk from a glass or from a bottle. You can drink as much as you like, and even if it doesn't cure you, it can't do you any harm come what may. Some vendors claim that frankincense also protects the gastrointestinal tract, that it's beneficial for asthma, improves cognitive functions, relieves headaches, anxiety, and depression, and that it protects the liver and combats cancer. Once a year, the Dhofar witnesses a veritable miracle, the Kharif. This Arabic term designates the monsoons that arrive from India and affect this region between July and September. For about 3 months, rain is plentiful and the Dhofar region is cool, while in the rest of Oman and the Gulf states, the temperature can soar to above 50 degrees Celsius during the same period. This microclimate transforms the mountains in Dhofar into a verdant landscape. Spectacular waterfalls and natural pools are formed by the sudden flooding of wadis now in full spate. This microclimate attracts tourists from all the surrounding countries. They come to the Dhofar on holiday because of its cool climate. With its numerous springs and waterfalls, Wadi Darbat is one of the gems of the Dhofar. Between mid-June and early October, the waterfalls flow freely, and the mountains that nourish the wadis are blanketed with a bright green vegetation. The Jalabis hasten to pasture their animals here, where they can freely eat to their heart's content. If it were not for the presence of camels, you might think that you were in the Swiss Alps. Meeting camels in the mist simply feels unreal. You may also be surprised to meet them on the highway. I cannot leave Salalah without visiting the ruins of Balid. Excavations at the archaeological site of Balid have allowed us to better understand the importance of this city that was founded 2,000 years before our era. Amongst the more remarkable ruins are the remains of the Great Mosque and the palace. They were built between the 12th and 16th centuries.
My name is Alexia Pavan, and I'm the director of the excavation in Balid. I've been working on this project since 2016, and the project is focused on the excavation and consolidation of the Husn. The Husn was the citadel, so it was the most important building of the site. Through this work, we are trying to understand and to figure out how this ancient and very important city was working and why it was such important. The site is very large because it's 64 hectares. So to be a medieval city, it was really, really huge. So to deal with the excavation of such a huge site, it's quite complicated. So we decided to focus on some of the landmarks of the site. So we started with the Grand Mosque here, because it was, of course, the most important religious building of the site. And after we excavate all the southern side, which was the side facing to the ocean. So understanding the defensive structure and the system of jetty, because this was a port, a very important port. We had to understand how the maritime activities were working. And finally, we decided to focus on the center of the power. This was the residence of the ruler, but it was also the place where the people come in to defend themselves. So it was really one of the most important places of the city. Inside the wall, there were the most important buildings, the house of rich people, the rich merchants. But the Souk itself was outside the city wall. That was the place where they store all the goods coming and going outside the city. Which were these goods? Of course, the most important was frankincense.
Studies of Arabic texts from the period indicate that Balid's importance was centered on the frankincense trade.
We are here in the middle of the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula, so it was a really crucial place for the trade. Ships had to stop here because they need water, they need a safe harbor to stop and to exchange the goods. So we found a lot of ship timbers. Ship timbers reused in their architecture. Sometimes they need to make the lines horizontal, sometimes they need to give strength to the wall, sometimes need to make lintels, and they use the material they have. So the palm that they have here is not very good for this purpose. So they use ship timbers that they need to fix, they need to reuse. And this gives a lot of important information for archaeologists because it's possible to make analysis on the wood, so to understand the date. And it's giving a lot of information about the shipbuilding technique in the Indian Ocean in medieval time. It's very rare to find wood in the sites because these sites are coastal sites, so the humidity affects the preservation of the wood. But in some special contexts where we found sand, they are just sealed. Really, the timbers with the holes, with the coconut rope, they used to fix them. So this gives a number of very important information. And we found a very nice collection of Chinese pottery that is, again, beautiful and complete. So this is something that we love to excavate and we love to find. The history of this place goes very back in the time because, as you can see now, it was a place rich of water. So until the Bronze Age, it means 3000 BC, there were people coming to this place. It was a place plenty of resources, so it was a very good place to stay in. The city that you see now it's such to be built in around 1000, but this does not mean that the place was not occupied before. The most important period was between the 13th and the 15th century. So we have a lot of traces, archaeological evidence about that period. And we have also sources, because Marco Polo, for example, came in this place and remember how busy was the port. And he spoke about the Arabian horses, he spoke about the frankincense. So we know from a number of different sources the importance of the place. And it was important till the 18th centuries. So Salalah is still very important as a port because it's strategic location, and there was the same in the past. So it was a really long and rich history.
In the early morning, I'm greeted by the fishermen in the port of Mirbat. As in the times of the frankincense trade, they continue to sail in traditional dhows, craft that have changed little since ancient times. Today, the port activities are centered on fishing. It represents the main source of income for the sailors. I embark with them, as did the first sailors of yore. From afar, I see the shore of Muscat beach receding, and I leave behind me this turquoise sea that washes up on the white sands. I see the camels and the dhows that sail in the distance, as did the first ships laden with frankincense 3,000 years before Jesus Christ. All these encounters have revealed the infinite richness of Oman's heritage and the legendary hospitality of the inhabitants of the desert, who have managed to preserve their crafts and their traditions.